Imagine for a moment the word discipline. Many of us, especially after the age of 40, associate it with something heavy, rigid, almost like an obligation imposed from the outside in. But what if I told you that discipline, when truly understood, can be transformed into pleasure? That it is not a burden, but a path to lightness, freedom, and prosperity. Today, I want to guide you through a deep reflection on how to turn financial discipline into pleasure and how this can radically change the way you live and deal with money from now on. Science shows us that our brain is guided by rewards. Neuroscience research proves that it does not only seek to avoid pain, but above all, to maximize pleasure. And here lies the key. If we associate financial discipline with deprivation, the brain resists. But if we associate it with the pleasure of achievement, with the relief of being debt-free, with the joy of watching our wealth grow, then discipline ceases to be a struggle against ourselves and becomes a natural ally. Studies show that small, conscious nudges help us make better decisions, showing that our mind can be guided toward healthier financial choices when we create environments and habits that favor discipline. The lack of discipline, however, comes at a high cost, not only in the pocket, but also in the body, the mind, and relationships. And here it's worth reflecting on some of the less talked about, but equally real consequences. First, premature aging caused by constant financial stress. Those who live worried about debt continuously activate the hormone cortisol, which wears down the body and accelerates illnesses. Second, memory and focus loss. Studies show that financial worries drain cognitive capacity, reducing attention and impairing decisions even in other areas of life. Third, the reduction of opportunities for learning and professional updating. After all, when money is always short, there is little left to invest in courses, books, and new skills, something crucial after the age of 40. Fourth, the inability to create a future of choice. Indiscipline traps a person in a cycle of survival, where tomorrow is just another day to pay bills and not a space of possibilities. Fifth, the ripple effect on children and grandchildren. Studies in economic psychology show that financial patterns are transmitted from generation to generation. If we do not heal indiscipline in ourselves, we pass the same burden forward. Sixth, social isolation. Many people avoid family gatherings or meeting friends out of shame about their financial situation. This erodes not only economic life, but also emotional bonds. And we could add even more. Seventh, the paralysis in the face of dreams. How many people do you know who always say, "One day I will," and that day never comes because indiscipline consumes every possibility? The dream stays on paper, suffocated by yesterday's thoughtless choices. Eighth, the dependence on chance. Without discipline, a person becomes hostage to luck, waiting for miracles, promotions, inheritances, or some stroke of fortune in the market. But discipline is not about waiting, it's about building. Do you realize how the lack of discipline doesn't just steal money, but also youth, health, opportunities, dignity, and emotional bonds? Now, let's turn the tables and talk about the reasons to cultivate discipline, and more than that, to transform it into pleasure. First, discipline brings security. Imagine opening your banking app and feeling not fear, but pride. Second, it offers freedom of choice. You can decide to travel, invest, change careers, without it being an impossible mountain to climb. Third, discipline builds legacy. Your children and grandchildren learn more from your example than from your words. Fourth, discipline generates real pleasure, because nothing compares to the feeling of achieving a dream with your own resources without depending on anyone. To illustrate, think of the case of J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter. Before her success, she lived in conditions of extreme financial difficulty, raising a daughter as a single mother. What few people know is that even after fame and fortune, she maintained discipline. She controlled her spending, made conscious choices, and kept a relatively simple life. This posture was not a sign of fear, but of wisdom. She knew that true prosperity is not about spending more, but about spending better. Another important point comes from the psychology of habits. Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, explains that any lasting change begins with the creation of consistent routines. Small habits, repeated daily, reprogram the brain and generate pleasure through dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to the sensation of achievement. Saving a fixed amount every month, writing down expenses, or simply waiting 24 hours before making a purchase are examples of simple habits that transform discipline into everyday pleasure. Studies also prove that the way we see our own abilities directly influences our results. People with a growth mindset understand that discipline is not a fixed gift, but a trainable skill. And this means that, even after the age of 40, you can learn, improve, and rewrite your relationship with money. There is no such thing as being too old to start over. There is only the decision to do so. Now let me challenge you with some questions. What gives you more pleasure? Spending on something you won't even remember in 3 months? Or building a life where you can sleep peacefully, knowing that your finances are under control? How many times have you traded a fleeting pleasure for a lasting regret? And how many times have you experienced the deep pleasure of achieving something great precisely because you maintain discipline? And what if you thought of discipline not as a cutback, but as an investment in yourself? It's not about cutting everything, but about choosing. Discipline is not rigidity, it's awareness. It's understanding that every dollar spent is a seed planted, and the harvest will depend on the quality of those choices. It's the difference between living by improvisation and living with purpose. Perhaps you're wondering, but how do I start? The answer is simple and practical. Start small. Set clear and achievable goals. For example, save 10% of everything you earn, or adopt the 30-day rule. Any major purchase must wait 30 days and will only be made if it still makes sense after that period. Another powerful practice is to create access barriers against indiscipline, such as leaving your credit card at home or using separate accounts for spending and investing. These small acts of discipline create pleasure when you notice your progress. You can even turn this into a game. Some families create monthly challenges. Who can spend less on unnecessary items? Who can cook more at home instead of ordering food? Who can accumulate more in a joint savings account? Discipline stops being a burden and becomes a source of connection, learning, and even fun. And remember, the pleasure of discipline is not only in the result, but also in the process. Just as an athlete feels pleasure in training because they know they're strengthening their body, you can feel pleasure in every disciplined financial choice because you know you're strengthening your freedom. Every conscious decision is a small victory, and these accumulated victories build a sustainable lifestyle. At 40 or older, every decision counts even more, because we are not only building the present, but also the future we want to live. Financial discipline is not about giving up life, but about consciously choosing how to live it. It's about looking ahead and realizing that, with discipline, you no longer depend on luck, but on your own power of decision. Conclusion: financial discipline is disguised freedom. It is delayed pleasure that multiplies into lasting pleasure. It is the key to transforming your financial life and, along with it, your emotional life, your relationships, and your self-esteem. The pleasure of sleeping peacefully, of being able to say yes to the right opportunities, of living with dignity, is priceless. So the choice is in front of you: to continue in the cycle of indiscipline with its well-known consequences, or to decide today to turn discipline into pleasure, changing not only the way you deal with money, but the way you deal with life itself. This was just the beginning. In the link below, in the first pinned comment, you'll find something to speed up your growth even more. Did you find this content useful? Then like the video, comment, share it with more people, and subscribe with the notifications on.